A lot of guys' futures, they're uncertain, myself included. It's not what you'd want to hear if you're a Green Bay fan, certainly. And the thing is, we've got to caveat this first point by saying, obviously, there's a lot of overreaction to that. There's a ton of reaction to it. That comment in itself was probably reactionary because we're talking, 20 minutes, half an hour from getting off the field in a losing NFC Championship game. His fourth straight NFC title loss. Like, it's got to hurt. It's got to hurt a lot. But Aaron Rodgers, and the thing is, I've seen a lot of Aaron Rodgers speak this year, as we're both watchers of the Pat McAfee show, obviously. Couple of Punts Hall of Famer, Pat McAfee. He has a great show daily on YouTube, and he's had Aaron Rodgers on, if you don't know, for about half an hour every Tuesday. It's been great. It's been brilliant to see his insight throughout the season, kind of week on week. This is a very, very meticulous man. This guy doesn't waste words.
Nope.
He's surgical almost. I mean, obviously he is as a player, and I think as a character, as a man, he's pretty surgical in what he says as well. He doesn't say things for no reason. I don't get that vibe. I really don't. And I think whether he kind of really meant this or not, this was definitely meant as a jab, 100% towards the front office and perhaps even Matt LaFleur himself. But obviously that just caused an absolute shitstorm on Twitter, as it would, because he could move on. That's the situation we are right now. Aaron Rodgers, we could have seen him for the last time in a Green Bay Packers jersey. I think it's even less likely that happens than the Watson situation, which we obviously have discussed in the last few weeks. It's probably more likely Watson moves on because Rodgers is such an institution in Green Bay, and obviously even LaFleur's comments last night, they're going to do everything they can to keep him. But I mean, he has the keys. They can't stop him. Ultimately, the Green Bay Packers can't just lock him in a room and say you're not going anywhere. He'll just retire. If he really wants to go, he can just retire. So he really does hold his future in his own hands. Could you see it happening?
I could see him walking away. Absolutely. I could also see him going somewhere else. It was, it's clear that this season has essentially only papered over the cracks of the rift that has been building. For not just kind of last year. It's the multiple things. It's the not giving Aaron Rodgers help. Imagine how the result could have differed last night's game if they'd have taken a corner, if in the first round, if they'd given Aaron Rodgers another weapon, imagine a Chase Claypool on this offense, Michael Pittman Jr., you talk about who we drafted, he makes his offense instantly better. If you talk about kind of receivers, maybe they get another lineman to kind of, because it's a good O-line, but it's an aging O-line. We saw what happened when David Bakhtiari wasn't there last night. He was sacked 5 times, 3 from Shaq Barrett, 2 from JPP. Imagine any number of positions they could have drafted, but they drafted the quarterback, and ultimately they've got no further.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's all going to play out in the long run, and Jordan Love might be the messiah, and he might come through and be the guy, in which case it'll all work out for the best. But we were sat here a year ago, and having just watched the Packers lose to the 49ers in the NFC title game, and it was very clear that they were a couple of players short in key positions. That's what it was. They'd been a great team all year. They'd gone 13-3 in the regular season. They had Aaron Rodgers. He wasn't even playing to the level he was this year, and they still got the championship game, but they were just a few players short against a team with a great defense in the 49ers. What changed? Nothing really changed 365 days later. The same thing happened yesterday. They just looked a couple of players short, as you just said. When you've got a window like this, when you've got a real opportunity to win a Super Bowl, because I still believe the Chiefs are going to take some stopping, but I think if the Packers got there, if they managed to get over last night, I think they had a real shot. It's malpractice on behalf of the front office. I think to not give Rodgers, who's given so much this franchise, to not give him the chance, to not give him the tools. It's poor. It's really, really, really poor. And you've got to feel for him. I mean, I'm just looking through now. It's the second time in Rodgers' career that he lost a playoff game. He had a passer rating of over 100. If you have a passer rating of over 100 in a playoff game,
incredible.
You should not be losing a playoff game. And it's a result of, he wasn't perfect, but if they drafted better, if the coaching was a little better, they could well have got off the line last night. And I could see it because it would be great. Like in my head right now, to see Aaron Rodgers in a different jersey, it's kind of crazy to think, isn't it? It's hard to even visualize. But then again, 7 or 8 years ago, Could I visualize Peyton Manning in a jersey that wasn't Indianapolis? No. He went to Denver, won a Super Bowl. This time last year, could I have imagined Tom Brady in a uniform that wasn't a Patriots uniform? No. He's about to go to the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Joe Montana even moved on. It happens. These great elite quarterbacks, you kind of get this. Your first thought initially is go, oh, he just played for the Packers. He just played for the Colts. He played for the Patriots. No. A lot of them actually move on. There's a big track record of this, of players having a year or two at the end of their career with a different team. And generally, they have success. It kind of works. It could happen. It could well happen. And there's a couple of teams which it kind of makes sense for as well, isn't there?
There is. Brett Favre moved on.
He did, yeah, of course. Jets, Vikings, yeah.
Yeah, Brett Favre moved on before Aaron Rodgers. And, Green Bay are not a team that particularly are attractive to many free agents. They don't spend big in free agency. They don't reward their players as much as other teams do, which is a lot considering, yes, it's a storied franchise, but you have to live in Wisconsin, which is a factor. The weather there's awful. Would you much rather live in Miami?
Yeah.
Much rather live on the west coast of I was going to say west coast of LA. LA is the west coast of America.
I mean, just to throw this out there, Aaron Rodgers literally does live 20 minutes away from where the Rams train.
Yeah.
Just saying.
He's from Northern California. As you saw in the graphic yesterday, he is 180 miles away from where Tom Brady grew up, which is also California. These things do take into account. So, and yeah, I could absolutely see him. He could actually go anywhere. And as you say, there are loads of landing spots for him. We're one. It's too early considering that no one's really looked into the cap space of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not quite sure about the cap stuff, but we've got a lot of cap room. The 49ers send him back home. He can go he's literally 180 miles away because Tom Brady grew up in the Bay Area. So 180 miles away from the Bay Area. As you just said, lives 20 miles away from the Rams training facility. Jared Goff and the Rams aren't exactly in a good relationship right now. There's so many teams, and it's kind of the same thing with Deshaun Watson. There's probably 5 teams that say no, and that's maybe being generous off the top of my head. Almost the entire league says yes.
Yeah, I think the only difference in those situations is why I kind of said at the top that I think the Watson trade is more likely is Watson just wants out no matter what, doesn't he? And the thing with Watson is he's young enough that he doesn't need a team that can win now.
No.
He can help build a team for 3 or 4 years. He'll do that. And if he is going to go to New York or Miami, which it kind of looks like, they're kind of the 2 spots that are possible, maybe even Carolina, but he doesn't mind that. He's got plenty of years in the tank. He can do that. Rodgers is going to be 38, I think, next season when he plays. He's probably got a couple of years, don't get me wrong. He's still playing to a very high level, obviously. He's going to be the MVP of the league. So there's no worries there, but he's not going to have 10 years. He's going to have 5, probably.
Very true.
It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for him to move to a team in a lesser position than the Packers. And of course, that doesn't mean that means there's not many options. Frankly, there's not 32 teams he can go to. There's 3 or 4 potentially. He needs to go to a team that already has a solid base where they can have a real run next year. Not in 3 years' time. He wants to have a run next year. That leaves, we certainly believe the Colts. I think that's kind of widely assumed they're a team who can do it. It leaves the 49ers, so obviously such a bleak year this year because of the quarterback situation, ton of injuries. But, I mean, frankly, they were in the Super Bowl last year and there's not a whole lot of changes if they can get everyone healthy. The Rams would make sense because, I know you were particularly down the Rams this year and stuff like that. They weren't particularly exciting, but if you throw Rodgers in there, you've got the best defense in football. That kind of makes some sense. If you really want to go long shot, maybe the Steelers, if Big Ben's done.
Chicago?
That would be something. That really would be something.
Kind of drive the knife in that you've wasted me. I'm going to go to a division rival. You're going to see me twice a year for the next 5 years. He's got the defense. If they kept Allen Robinson, I mean, this is way before I know what the exact cap situations are and stuff. But
I feel like
that be a storyline.
I feel like his cap is something like 30, 35 million next year. So it's a lot. Don't get me wrong, but you're getting the MVP. I mean,
with that defense,
that's what you pay. I mean,
and then that's kind of if your ownership, if Matt Nagy can't do it with Aaron Rodgers, Matt Nagy's not the guy.
No.
So you get rid of him then.
Yeah. For me, it's probably the 49ers.
It makes just the most sense.
I think it's San Francisco, and we'll call this. We did discuss this back in April. This was something. I mean, I could not tell you what episode it was, but way back in April, post draft, we did discuss the possibility of this because, frankly, I mean, if they're going to stick by their guns, they drafted the replacement. The Packers, by their own admission, should be ready for this situation to happen. They should be ready for it to unfurl because they got their guy. I mean, they must have loved him in order to. It was such a risk to bring him in with that first round pick. So one of the biggest risks I've ever seen in a draft scenario. So they must have fallen in love with Jordan Love. He's still on the roster, frankly. So, I mean, yeah, the 49ers for me, though, I think for Rodgers, I think the California thing, the fact he played football in the Bay Area growing up, the fact that the 49ers had the first overall pick in his draft in 2005, made the wrong decision. We love Alex Smith, but it shouldn't have been Alex Smith, let's be honest. Rodgers takes the kind of infamous slide in the green room, goes to Green Bay. I think it's picked number, I forget what pick he was.
20s somewhere.
Yeah, too late anyway. But yeah, I mean, this is probably going to take part, going to be one of our kind of what if episodes that are going to air in the summer. But yeah, I mean, ultimately the 49ers should have taken Rodgers. As simple as that. They were expected to. He went to Cal. He was a California boy. For that to go full circle would be quite something. And the 49ers would be a force next year if that was to happen.
It would. And that opens up the prospects of a three-way team trade. Garoppolo slides back to New England.
That's what I think would happen. Yeah, I really do. We were discussing just pre-pod, weren't we, in terms of quarterback situations. The only one where I don't have any idea about at the moment is New England.
Neither do the bookies.
No. Don't think the front office does, to be honest. No one's got a clue who's going to start for the Patriots next year. The current favourite to start for the Patriots is Matt Stafford, but yet he's favoured to go to the Colts. So it's just
that one out.
It's so up in the air. It's so up in the air. So yeah, the 49ers can move on. I say relatively cheaply. I think they can cut him for essentially nothing. Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah, he heads to the Patriots to open up that room. Rodgers slides in. Makes sense. And Green Bay probably get a first round pick. So it's one to look out for. Could be a massive overreaction, and in a couple of days Rodgers comes out and goes, no, I'm committed to the team, they're going to retire as a Packer, all that kind of thing. But it certainly was something to consider because this is a story that started last April, frankly, and it's never going to fully go away, I don't think.